Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the One Team Inisher podcast, where you find three very happy Killie fans who couldn't believe that they could get any happier than they did a couple of weeks ago after the victory over Rangers. But here we are, happier still on cloud nine after our win over Celtic in the League Cup on Sunday. Unbelievable performance, unbelievable result from the team. So much to talk about that we'll do with myself, Adam Lyon, Kieran, and Andrew as always. Before we go into it, we've put out our video from the day and our commentary from the goal as well. So you can hear that on the YouTube channel as well. Some other videos on there to go and look at if you haven't already. But without further ado, Andrew, where do you even begin to start with Sunday? Nobody really gave us a chance. We thought we might have a wee outside go at it, but nobody could have predicted, a 1-0 victory. Relatively not straightforward, but we didn't get tested too many times by a quality side in Celtic, and in the end, fully deserving of knocking them out of the cup for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the part that's almost surprised us most, with those two victories over the Old Firm is we've deserved it both times. You can't say we've stole it and perhaps they don't deserve it, to be on the losing side both times, but they absolutely have. And as you say, Sunday was absolutely no different as well. A superb victory and performance throughout the full 90 minutes by Kilmarnock and every single player again. We are starting to sound like broken records, but every single one of them superb to a man. And yeah, I just obviously you say we put the commentary out, well worth a listen, but I would say obviously a little warning. Probably have your volume a little bit lower than usual because we got quite loud, as did everyone in the stadium, and quite rightly so because it was a great goal, and a great moment to knock the treble from last the team that got the treble last year, and are so used to having great campaigns in the League Cup. Obviously, put us out of it last season. So it's great to get that revenge, and even sweeter to do it at home, in front of the crowd that we had, and hopefully, it's just the beginning of something really special this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kieran, to beat both sides of the old firm, within like 15 days of each other was just unbelievable, wasn't it? And it wasn't really, we talked a couple of weeks ago on the podcast after the Rangers game about all the good things that we'd done, the defensive solidity, taking our chance when we needed to, and limiting Rangers to very few chances. And it was pretty much the same again yesterday, wasn't it? All these things sort of came together so strong defensively, limiting Celtic to a few good chances. There was a few good chances here and there for them, but mostly sort of half chances. I think they had one shot on target the whole game, and just taking that chance when it came. They were two very similar games, weren't they?
Near enough a shot for shot remake, you would say. Two teams that are aiming high should be doing better, shouldn't, let's face it, be losing to a team like Kilmarnock. I know we've rebuilt, I know we're stronger. I know Derek McInnes is getting his point across now to the players, but still, even Rangers in the condition that they were in, you didn't think that they were just going to capitulate so easily. Like they got to a point where you felt like they weren't even trying. And the same with Celtic yesterday. Like apart from a couple of sparks here or there, their team was lost. Like, and not to take it away from Kilmarnock, obviously Kilmarnock were the driving force. They were the team in the ascendancy. They had the point to prove. They wanted to cause an upset, and an upset we've caused. We've caused an early one in the league, which of course isn't all said and done just yet, just because it's one match day. But in the cup, it's a few games into the quarterfinals now. Um, Another home tie as well. It's an interesting one, but definitely there's a lot of comparisons between the Celtic game there and the Rangers game prior in the league. Not sure if I'd rather a Celtic win in the league or the cup one. Not sure which one would have been sweeter, but either way, it's something because we thought it was maybe a bit of a fluke, the Rangers game. Then Hearts game, no, maybe there's something here. But then the Celtic game, it's becoming not fluky. There's something happening. I'm not sure what it is, but long may it last.
Absolutely. And you're talking about comparisons there. Andrew had that horrendous, 4-1 defeat to Celtic, and in the second part of last season, where they scored four goals in the opening 20 minutes, could easily have gone to be on, could have gone on to be far more than that in the end. But the difference between that game and this game was completely night and day, not just from a Kilmarnock point of view, who are obviously, better, stronger, more solid, but from a Celtic point of view, they've changed manager. We've caught them early in the season. They're still trying to adapt to the way Brendan Rodgers wants to play. But they were pretty disappointing yesterday as well from their own fans' point of view, which only helped us in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that contrast is the perfect comparison to make. There's a huge drop off from Celtic when you compare them last season to this season, or at least if you analyse the performances against us, at least, and certainly a big improvement from us as well. Which I mean, obviously was necessary. We don't want to be having any relegation battles like we had last season, and this is a season for Dermot Kent's to prove himself. He's had his critics and very fair at times as well, but this is he's been given a chance to go again this season. This is a chance for him to show what really everyone does know he's capable of, and it's good to see it coming to fruition now. But as you say, Celtic, not up to their level yet. I'm sure they will improve over time. The drop off they've had since Andrew left and Brennan came in is significant, especially defensively. Looking very weak at times, and Kilmarnock capitalised on that well at times, and perhaps could have even done better with a few other chances that came Kilmarnock's way on Sunday as well. So yeah, huge contrast to 12 months ago when, as you say, we were losing that league game so poorly at the start of last season. So it's just a credit to Kilmarnock and where we're at the start of this season, and it's just a matter of trying to make sure this isn't a. I mean, as Kieran said, it's certainly not a fluke, these two victories against Rangers and Celtic. However, make sure it isn't just a purple patch and it becomes something that we see throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be important to continue that on to the game next week. We'll come on to that in a couple of minutes' time. Kieran, obviously, victory against Celtic. Obviously, the draw coming straight after the game. I think the draw was made while we were still on air. We didn't know. We were probably the last ones, the last Killie fans to know what the actual draw was. I mean, all Premiership teams left, so any game would have been hard. We obviously got a home game against Hearts, so in a way, not the hardest game we could have got, but not the easiest game we could have got. How do you sort of assess that? Being at home probably going to be a massive, massive advantage.
Well, from what we've been seeing at home, Rugby Park is a fortress again. As cliche as you want to make it sound, whatever you want to say about it, it's the facts are the facts. 3 games gone against top 4 sides from last season, 0 goals conceded, barely any shots registered as well on target. The last time Will Dennis was tested was in that penalty shootout back in the cup run. So it's one of those things. Obviously, we've played Hearts already. We're kind of familiar with what they're up to. That was on their soil. We got a 0-0 in a game where arguably we could have taken the lead at some points. Admittedly, Hearts probably could have done the same. But at Rugby Park, with the kind of belief that's starting to form about the results that are coming back to back to back, the crowd hasn't been too impressive at the start of the season. You've seen quite a lot of bald spots in the Kilmarnock stands, but with the performances going up, the team's belief, the team's spirit going up, that will encourage more fans to come along, hopefully, in theory. Just get the place even more of an atmosphere, because even though the limited few that we had at the Celtic game on Sunday, the noise was ridiculous. Everyone was like screaming like worth 10 people, myself included. Obviously, in the commentary clip, you can hear that abundantly, and I'm sure all the local dogs in the area did as well. But it's one of those things. Hearts, although they've got one of the most prolific strikers in the league up top, they're beatable. As I said, we've seen that when we went up to Tynecastle. It was only 0-0. We didn't really get threatened all too much. So the advantage then flips back in our favour, the same as it did for Rangers, the same as it did for Celtic. 2 big teams with really imposing forces up top, and no shots, barely any shots on target, no goals conceded. So bring on Hearts. I'm not overly worried. I would say there was harder teams to get in the draw. Sorry, but Hearts is, although take it with a pinch of salt, they're not to be overlooked. I'm not 100% worried just yet.
Absolutely, and that game, quarter final, will be towards the end of next month, like a midweek, and it will be televised as well. So, big chance for Kilmarnock to get through to Hampden once again. I mean, Andrew Dermot McInnes has talked for since he came in the door about the need and the want for Kilmarnock to become a top cup team. You know, we got to Hampden once last season, should have been twice if not for that horrendous performance up at Inverness in the Scottish Cup. One game away from Hampden already this year. You know, it can only breed, confidence in the team, but also excitement among the fans because, getting to Hampden regularly, you're going to get more and more people coming along to those kind of games, that maybe wouldn't come every week. And that can only translate into more bums and seats, for the league and other games like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone loves a cup run, and especially our manager, Derek McInnes, as well. We know that from his time at Aberdeen, how much he loved a cup run as well. So it's something that we've missed out on a lot in recent years, falling out in early stages. And of course, until last year, not, getting to Hampden for the first time in a decade is, not good enough in terms of, a club of our size. And we should be getting to Hampden a lot more regularly. And hopefully, under Derek McInnes, it's something we can begin to see, as you say, just one game away. And I agree with Kieran, it's not the worst draw, but not the best draw either. It's certainly winnable and a chance to get through to a final. And you'd like to hope that we'd be right up for that and fancy our chances to get through. But you're completely right. I mean, a good cup run only is a positive to the team, a positive to the fans, and reflects that and hopefully our league campaign as well. Obviously, last year it was totally different. It was contrasting emotions of having a good cup run and then going back to the league and it being so poor, but hopefully this year, they can work hand in hand and be a real positive for us. As you say, we should have had two Hampden trips last year. Hopefully, maybe we'll be able to do that this season. We'll wait and see with Hearts come up first, I suppose.
Absolutely. And from the cup straight back to league action as we go to Fir Park on Saturday. Motherwell have a good start to the season, yet they only tasted defeat in any competition for the first time at the weekend there. Won 3 out of their 4 games in the League Cup to get through that group quite comfortably. Drew 1-1 with Dundee on the opening day of the season, then beat Hibs 2-1, big shock in the second Premiership game, and then now they lost 1-0 to St Mirren in the cup game on Saturday. Kieran, always a difficult game up there, but so important for Kilmarnock that having got these big victories over Rangers and Celtic and really put a statement out there. We've got to go and follow that up now by beating teams or at least getting points against teams that we should be getting points against, and not anything other than that would be seen as a missed opportunity, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Although it's an away game, and then obviously, as we always say, the odds are slightly stacked against you when it's an away game. But the Kilmarnock away supporters, it was fantastic all throughout last season. It obviously the results weren't mirrored by the support. They didn't get what they deserved up until the very end. So it's not the way we mean to go on. Hearts was a really good building block for our away streak. If we can kind of keep going at that, I'm not saying we need to keep the clean sheet going, but just don't get humiliated on the road is all we're really asking for. Motherwell, a different shaped side now. Obviously, they're missing their teeth up top with Kevin Van Veen away. I think he's to Belgium, wasn't he? He went to. So missing a big name up top, a player that was a bit of a kind of boogeyman for us all of last season. He always kind of popped up here or there. For Motherwell in general, but against us as well, he was a bit of a menace. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up without him. It's that way. It's a little bit of a kind of my confidence is slightly less. Oddly, I find myself being more confident for the cup game than I am for this Motherwell game because it's the first kind of proper test because those 3 games they were a luxury. Those 4 points that we've picked up, that's just 4 points I never predicted would happen. As I said, I would have been happy with 2. I would have been over the moon with 1. 4, it's got me a little bit kind of my feet off the ground slightly. So I don't know how the Killie players will be keeping their heads level, thinking, why can we not just keep this going forever, go invincible all season? Like I don't know how you don't get carried away with that. Because I'm gonna say I'm my own private thoughts. I'm getting carried away with that kind of notion, so I'm not really sure where anyone else stands with it. But as you said, these are the important ones. The Rangers game, the Hearts game, they're nice wee bonus points here that maybe no other team's going to pick up this season. But these are the ones that matter. These are the important points. The teams that are going to be in and around us. So it is a must not lose game coming up.
Absolutely, and it will be a very different game, won't it, Andrew? Because these first three games, we've been the underdogs, we've been the team that's had to do a bit of defending, when we've had to, and then hit on the counter attack and try and get joy that way. But Motherwell much more even game. Kilmarnock, as Derek McInnes alluded to, his post match interview from Sunday. We've got this year. We've got to show a bit more of our attacking intent. Get Danny Armstrong, get Matty Kennedy higher up the pitch and really take the game to Motherwell. And this will be the first time, in the regular season. Obviously, we saw it a little bit in pre-season, but first time in the regular season where we'll get the chance to see that and see what we can do, on the front foot for decent spells of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's where a bit of my apprehension comes from ahead of the game away to Fir Park, because it is a totally different game to what we've had in those first three games. Motherwell is a team that we would like to hope we'll be competing with in the league table this season. And they're going to have a totally different game plan to what we've seen in these first three games. And it's whether Kilmarnock can adapt to this and make sure that these three games aren't just a special one-off, because we're against these big teams where they're going to be pressing us all game and in and about us. Whereas Motherwell, it'll probably be more, as you say, Adam, and obviously Derek touched on that in his interview as well, where our attacking quality is going to be a lot more relied on than perhaps in those, first three games where we obviously only got the two goals as well. So, it's important that we get a striker in as well for these games like this. I doubt there is going to be anything before Saturday. But hopefully we see some more attacking intent and get up, because that is the one thing, albeit as amazing as these performances were in these first three games, it is that final third bit that is slightly missing at the moment. Obviously, in the two home games, it has come good at the right, at the perfect time to get those two goals that we needed. However, it certainly can still be improved upon, and will need to be for these away games, because it's important we get an away with victory as soon as possible. And Saturday, I think, is a perfect time to try and do so. Motherwell are an impressive side, as Kieran said. Of course, missing Van Veen is a huge loss for them, but still think they are a very decent side. It won't be an easy game by any stretch. Always tricky away to Fir Park as well. So hopefully we're able to get the victory, because the quicker we get an away victory in the league, the quicker we shut down those memories of last season.
Absolutely. We'll just come straight back to you, Andrew. A score prediction for Saturday.
I'll be optimistic, and I'll say 2-1, and goals coming from Watkins, and let's go with McGuinness.
Kieran?
I'm going to copy Andrew with the 2-1. I feel like we're going to lose the clean sheet, but just maybe edge it out towards the end. Goal scorers, I'm going to go a little bit kind of awkward. I'm going to say a Danny Armstrong free kick and Brad Lyons. That's the two goal scorers I'll go with.
Right, I'll go 2-0. We'll continue our clean sheet record, and we'll go with a double from Matty Kennedy. We don't get many players that score doubles these days, do we? So has to happen at some point. So yeah, it'll be a game on Saturday, obviously 3 o'clock kickoff, and we'll see if we can continue our good form. So just before we finish up, I've had a couple of questions come in from some listeners, just on the sort of general sort of state of the squad. What we still need. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about the striker there, Kieran. Marlon Watkins getting his first goal in the league, or in the regular season on Saturday. Had that or Sunday, sorry, had that sort of deflected effort in the game up at Albion Rovers, which I think got credited to him. But he's obviously getting on the score sheet now, which is great. Kyle Vassell still doesn't look too great coming back. So obviously a striker, I think everyone agrees that it's needed, and we are in the market for one. But is there any other positions? What do you think about the squad depth? Do you think there's enough coming off the bench now? You get likes of Rory McKenzie, Liam Polworth, Liam Donnelly, your doppelganger, Fraser Murray as well, and Kyle Vassell came off the bench too. So is there enough on the bench there? Do you think maybe a couple more players just to a bit more experience, perhaps, just to try and flesh that out?
Well, if you were to take it kind of section by section, so starting off with goalkeeper, we're yet to see what Westwood has to offer. Not really sure what he's got. Obviously, Dennis started off a little bit kind of rough there, and we'll see how he goes on. The back line, the three centre halves we've got there, all quite solid, and then they've all got replacements for each one of them, and that's it. So you've got the 6 centre halves there. I'm not sure if there's any more. Not sure what we're doing. We're signing that young fullback. Is it Tom Davies? His name is. Obviously was on the bench against Celtic, but I don't really know where he fits in, whether he's going to be kind of like a wing cover for if one of Kennedy or Armstrong is missing in action. The quality in wings, as much as I love Rory McKenzie, I don't know if he's got it in him anymore. I'm not sure if he's up to scratch for where we're trying to aim to be or where Derek McInnes was trying to aim to be. Middle of the park is probably the most saturated we've got, to be honest. And as we've all mentioned, we've all pointed out, striker is our weakest link. Marley Watkins getting his goal, building his confidence, but end of the day, I don't know if he's a week in, week out kind of goal scorer. Whereas Kyle Vassell got a higher chance of scoring there. The collaboration of Bobby Wales and Ennis Cameron, we're not really going to see too much of them, I don't think. Ennis Cameron's already been chucked off the bench. I'm not sure if he's picked up an injury, perhaps, but he's not really getting a sniff around the squad. And Bobby Wales, although he's performing for the reserve side, he's again probably not going to get a look in when Marley Watkins is doing what he's doing. So I'd probably say striker, but that way is you kind of want a luxury player as well because there's no players in that team. You know, you look at McGuinness and Kennedy, and you're thinking, oh, that's quite big names for Kilmarnock signings, but over the years we've had players that are kind of like that kind of wow factor. You know, to name one in particular, Yusuf Malumbu, you know, a player that has just bags of experience. As you've been mentioning, we've not really got any kind of older players that have got that kind of wisdom. We had Ash Taylor last season, who was just a fantastic figure. We've lost Alan Power, who may have not had the best performances, but he was a good head to have around the camp. So maybe a couple of players just to kind of like feel out just the environment, the emotions of the players, especially when we're getting into these moments where we're toppling the giants of the league and it's getting a little bit kind of maybe a bit too much for the rest of the squad to handle.
Absolutely. And, we go on with this almost every week, Andrew, but that striker is so crucial, isn't it? I mean, it's all very well keeping the goals out at one end, which we've been doing fantastically, still not conceded, the season so far. But if you get no one, scoring regularly up the other end, you're making games much harder for yourself than they need to be. But, that 10 to 15 goal a season striker or even more, so hard to come by these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because nobody's going to sell their striker that's scoring a bunch of goals, are they? And we've not got the money to go and splash, a lot of cash on getting a premium striker. So it's incredibly difficult. And you can see Derek McInnes' frustration in every interview. He's answering the same questions about a striker. And he's going, we're trying, but it's just nothing's coming off. And it's obviously an incredibly difficult market to try and find someone and get them in the door that you're going to have faith in and believe are going to help you push you in the right direction. Because you don't want to have someone for the sake of it, but you do feel that these next 8 days of the transfer window is incredibly important to get somebody in that's going to help us this season. Because you feel like if the transfer window shuts and we've not been able to get anyone in or don't get anyone in that fills us with any confidence and doesn't, reap those rewards on the pitch, then you worry that it could be, a difficult long season, not perhaps in terms of performances, but in terms of when it comes to, finishing those chances in the final third, because we will create more chances than we have in these open three games against lesser opposition per se. And it's about having somebody up there who you have the faith in is going to take those chances. So it's going to be difficult to find. But you just got to hope that in these final 8 days of the transfer window, something's going to come off because I feel like it's something we desperately need as well. We're still waiting for Kelvin Stell to come up. Get back to his best. And as Derek keeps saying, he wants to play two up top with Watkins and someone else. And hopefully we'll get that someone else. I mean, I don't think our results so far this season will have harmed us at all. I'm sure potential strikers we're looking at, will perhaps be encouraged by these opening three results. So I suppose that is a positive, that getting a victory against Rangers and Celtic and a draw against Hearts, perhaps maybe that will help us, in our battle. And for example, losing 4-5-0 to some of these teams where people may be put off by that. So hopefully that perhaps helps us at all, helped us a little bit as well. But hopefully, come to that Ross County game at the start of September at home, hopefully we have a new number 9.
Absolutely, and I think that's a nice balance for you to end us on compared to Kieran's prediction. We're going to go invincible the whole season. Let's maybe clip that and put it on Twitter and see what everyone thinks about that particular prediction. But no, we'll see. As you say, it's 18 is the transfer on the left, so some big moves still needed to be made and some improvements to the squad. Absolutely, but it's been a positive couple of weeks. Another positive weekend for Kilmarnock, beating out Celtic in the League Cup and moving on to the next round to face Hearts. And then we've got Motherwell at the weekend, as we say, back to league business. So without further ado, thanks everyone for watching and listening. Thank you to Kieran and Andrew for joining me for episode 9, and we'll be back next week for the big 1-0 into double figures after we only reached episode 5 last year, so an improvement already. Episode 10, where we'll look back on the Motherwell game and look ahead to our next fixture as well. So without further ado, thanks everyone for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.